MGM's Golden Girl, forced to eat nothing but chicken soup and cigarettes, got paid less than her own dog, while her family hid a letter that could have destroyed Hollywood itself. Why would the people closest to Judy Garland go to war to keep her secrets buried for decades? Is it possible that behind the curtain of every Over the Rainbow, there's a storm so dark even her own children couldn't face it? Strap in, because today we rip open the secret vault. What you're about to hear will make you question everything you thought you knew about America's sweetheart, the hidden letter. Let's start with the bombshell that even tabloids were scared to print. For 50 years, Judy Garland's family kept a letter hidden from the world, a confession so raw, so dangerous, they begged the press to destroy it. This wasn't just a diary page. In 4 electrifying pages, Judy ripped open her own life. Secret phone calls to John F. Kennedy, heartbreaking betrayals, the vanishing MGM millions, and a mystery about the true father of her children. The letter revealed why Frank Sinatra once torched evidence in her dressing room and how 5 husbands spun their own lies to shield her. When the letter finally surfaced, critics called it the most explosive document in Hollywood history. Family members were devastated, refusing interviews and pleading for privacy. Even now, fans debate if it should have ever seen daylight. The letter flipped Judy's image from a tragic victim to a sharp, self-aware survivor, and proved that even in her last days, she was still the boldest voice in the room. Judys Mother. You think stage mom is just a stereotype? Ethel Gum, Judy's own mother, rewrote the playbook on parental ambition. When Ethel got pregnant, she considered ending it. She simply didn't want another child. Family stories say she went as far as seeking out risky medical advice to make Judy disappear before she was born. Instead, Ethel doubled down, pushing toddler Judy on stage at 2.5 years old, yanking her into the spotlight whether she was ready or not. Ethel bribed, threatened, and guilt-tripped Judy daily. She called her own daughter a meal ticket, and witnesses said her eyes lit up at the sight of a contract. Judy later called her mom the real Wicked Witch of the West, and it wasn't a joke. Friends claim Ethel traded favors with studio execs for roles, and insiders described her as relentless and cold as ice. She even threatened Judy backstage with lines like, "Sing or I'll break you off short." When Judy cried, Ethel said, "You're not my daughter unless you're on stage." Audiences saw the sparkle. Judy saw a monster. The MGM Diet. Here's the twisted reality behind the Technicolor magic. When Judy signed with MGM at 13, the studio declared war on her body. Louis B. Mayer, the top boss, decided Judy wasn't marketable. So he slapped her with a starvation diet, chicken soup for every meal, black coffee on tap, and up to 80 cigarettes a day to kill her hunger. Her chest was brutally bound so she'd look like a child. She was constantly weighed, measured, and criticized. "Fat little pig with pigtails," one exec sneered behind her back. Studio food police literally yanked sandwiches out of her hand on set. Toto the dog earned $125 a week. Judy made $500 and had to smile through every humiliation. Pills to wake her up, pills to make her sleep. And if she complained, more pills. Critics later called MGM's system a child abuse assembly line. The sickest twist? Judy's mother cheered it on, hoping it would make her daughter a star. The trauma left scars Judy never escaped. The ugly truth behind Dorothy. Think Judy Garland was born to play Dorothy? Not quite. Studio execs thought she was too plain, too chubby, too odd for the role. They wanted Shirley Temple but couldn't get her. So Judy got the job, only if she agreed to even harsher dieting, more body shaming, and endless screen tests. Her iconic blue gingham dress was actually designed to hide her curves and flatten her figure on camera. Even her laugh was dubbed. The snow falling on set? Pure industrial asbestos. No one warned her or the rest of the cast. Off camera, the makeup artist taped her nose, capped her teeth, and forced her into painful corsets. MGM demanded innocence and purity, but what they created was misery and shame. Still, Judy's raw heartbreak bled into her performance, turning Over the Rainbow into a desperate cry for escape. Critics called it the most toxic set in movie history. Fans had no clue. But when that movie hit theaters, the world believed in magic, even as Judy was suffering off screen. Pills before playground. Judy didn't have a childhood. She had a prescription. At 10, MGM's house doctor started her on a steady cocktail. Amphetamines to keep her awake, barbiturates to force her asleep, and energy pills for long days on set. The studio called it energy management. The doctor told Judy's mother it was for her metabolism. In truth, it was to keep the money machine running. Some days, Judy went 72 hours without sleep, only to be knocked out cold for 4, then forced back to work. By her teens, she was hooked. It wasn't about acting anymore. It was about surviving, she later said. One ex-husband claimed she couldn't remember her own lines unless she was drugged. The studio even paid doctors to oversee her regimen. The worst part? Judy thought this was normal. When she finally tried to quit, withdrawal nearly killed her. Critics now call it one of Hollywood's greatest scandals. But back then, the public cheered, never guessing the price Judy was paying. Studio-controlled love. Behind every headline, there was a deal. MGM arranged and controlled Judy's romances with an iron fist. Her first marriage to David Rose? The studio forced her into it to fix her image, then forced her to end a pregnancy she desperately wanted. Later, during an affair with heartthrob Tyrone Power, she got pregnant again. MGM's solution? Another forced procedure, more trauma, and a media cover-up. The studio even threatened her with contract termination if she didn't comply. Friends say Judy was heartbroken, describing herself as a pawn on their chessboard. Rose and MGM kept the truth buried for years, but rumors exploded after her death. Fans still speculate about the true paternity of her children, and her family refuses to talk. One director later said, "She was America's sweetheart, just not allowed to be human." Even now, these secrets spark fights at Garland family reunions. MGM's hands-on, father figure. Here's a story that still makes Hollywood squirm. MGM boss Louis B. Mayer didn't just control Judy's contracts, he controlled her body. Judy later said Mayer used to call her "my little hunchback" and would congratulate her after performances by squeezing her left breast right over her heart. "You sing from here," he'd say, pretending it was harmless. Judy was just 13. She once joked, "I was lucky I didn't sing with another part of my anatomy." When she protested, Mayer gaslit her, claiming it was all fatherly affection. MGM executives knew and said nothing. When Judy told her mother, Ethel shrugged it off. Years later, studio insiders finally admitted Mayer abused his power, especially with young stars. Even her daughter called these stories creepy and heartbreaking. But for Judy, the only thing more terrifying than Mayer's hands was how nobody came to her rescue. The betrayal that split the family forever. Family drama doesn't get darker than this. Judy's fourth husband, Mark Herron, was caught in bed with Peter Allen, her own son-in-law, married to Liza Minnelli. Liza herself walked in on the two, and the fallout was instant chaos. Herron split, Allen eventually came out, and Judy was left humiliated and heartbroken. The tabloids went wild, but insiders knew the pain ran deeper. Herron had married Judy for the headlines, not the love. After only 5 months, the marriage imploded. Herron went back to his longtime male partner. Liza cut her mother out for months. The family stopped speaking, and the wounds never truly healed. Fans called it the wildest Hollywood love triangle ever. Even decades later, interviews about this scandal are strictly off-limits. Friends say Judy's trust was shattered forever. One called it the final straw that broke her spirit. The A Star Is Born backstab. A Star Is Born was supposed to be Judy's victory lap, a comeback for the ages. She delivered one of the rawest, most electrifying performances in movie history. Critics went wild. Time magazine called it the greatest one-woman show ever filmed. But behind the scenes, husband and manager Sid Luft was gambling her salary away and making shady backroom deals. Warner Brothers pulled the plug on future projects, and Judy was left broke once more. She lost the Oscar to Grace Kelly, an upset so big, Groucho Marx called it the biggest robbery since Brinks. To add insult, years later, Luft tried to sell Judy's honorary Oscar. The Academy nearly sued, forcing him to pay damages. Insiders still whisper about how close Judy came to real financial freedom, only to have it stolen by the people she trusted most. Today, Hollywood calls it the comeback that was mugged in broad daylight, the TV show that became her undoing. In 1963, CBS offered Judy the richest contract in TV history, $24 million over 4 years. It was supposed to be her rescue, her last shot at real wealth and control. Instead, the network couldn't decide what they wanted. Was she a comic? A concert legend? Nostalgia bait? They changed formats, fired friends, and slashed budgets. The show's first season was chaos. Producers demanded laugh tracks, cut musical numbers, and even forced her to sing with Jerry Van Dyke, who had zero chemistry with her. Ratings tanked. CBS pulled the plug after 1 year. Judy was devastated. Critics say the backstage infighting broke her last ounce of confidence. The real punchline? She lost ownership of the show's tapes, which would have been worth millions in syndication. Instead, her debts swallowed the last of her cash, and her big break became the final blow. Her family never forgave the execs who let it happen. Carnegie Hall. On April 23, 1961, Judy Garland stepped onto the Carnegie Hall stage and delivered a performance so electrifying, it's still called the greatest night in showbiz history. The audience was star-studded. Julie Andrews stood on her chair cheering, Maureen O'Hara cried tears of joy, and even the critics lost their cool. Judy swept the Grammys, winning 5 awards and making the album a bestseller for years. But while the world saw a triumphant comeback, the reality was far grimmer. Judy was still broke, exhausted, and being squeezed by managers and ex-husbands for every penny. Even her kids watched from the wings, worried she might collapse. The show was her last true high. After that, the bills and betrayals came faster than ever. Her family later said, Carnegie Hall saved her for a moment, but broke her for good. Today, fans call it the night a legend was reborn, and the woman began to disappear. The last years. Picture this. The woman who made MGM millions slept in fans' apartments with her belongings stuffed in brown shopping bags. In her last years, Judy was broke, performing in New York gay bars for $100 a night. Her voice, once described as a force of nature, was now ragged and shaky. She'd sing 2 songs and collapse backstage. By 1968, her circle had shrunk to a handful of friends and her youngest daughter, Lorna. The public still saw the dazzling smile on TV, but behind closed doors, Judy was couch surfing, dodging eviction notices and begging for help. She lived off kindness, said a friend, because nobody else wanted her. Even her most loyal fans couldn't believe how far she'd fallen. Her family rarely visited. Critics called it the saddest downfall in showbiz. When she died, she had just $4,000 to her name. For a woman who once brought hope to millions, the ending was pure heartbreak. The fifth husband. Pills, promises, and a funeral she never wanted. Judy's final marriage was stranger than fiction. Mickey Deans, a nightclub manager more than a decade her junior, first met Judy by delivering a bottle of pills to her hotel. He promised stability and a new beginning, but only brought more chaos. They married in London in 1969. Judy called it my last chance at happiness. But Deans quickly took over her finances, her bookings, even her prescriptions. Friends claimed he was more interested in fame than love. On her last night, Judy was so weak she could barely walk, while Deans slept in the next room. When she died, he handled the funeral, and many whispered he rushed it for publicity. Her children were stunned. One called it the loneliest goodbye Hollywood ever saw. To this day, Dean's true motives are hotly debated. Was he a savior or just the final user in a long line? Her family has never agreed on the answer. Fortune lost. Judy Garland made more than $40 million in her lifetime. Yet when she died, she was practically penniless. Where did it all go? Spouses gambled it away, managers pocketed secret fees, and the IRS took its share. A parade of lawyers, family feuds, and friends left her checking account empty. After her death, The fight over her belongings turned ugly. Ex-husbands tried to auction her awards. Children feuded over memorabilia. The IRS threatened to seize her estate. One biographer called Judy Hollywood's greatest mark. Even the money from her concerts disappeared into the hands of others. The girl who sang of rainbows never saw her own pot of gold. In the end, her family was left with just the legend and the bills. Even now, some claim there are hidden stashes of cash, but every search turns up empty. Liza Minnelli's silent goodbye. If you wonder why Liza Minnelli almost never speaks of her mother's last years, here's the real reason. Liza was devastated by Judy's collapse. She banned her mother from her Manhattan apartment, desperate to escape the drama and protect herself. The public called her cold. Friends said it was self-defense. Judy's struggle nearly destroyed Liza, one insider wrote. The tabloids still love to print reunion stories, but behind closed doors, Liza refused to pick up the phone. Judy's breakdowns, scandals, and addictions made every conversation a minefield. Even at Judy's funeral, Liza kept her distance, weeping quietly while the cameras swirled. Today, when pressed about her mother, Liza's eyes fill with tears, and she changes the subject. Sometimes the wounds just never heal. The final whisper. On her last night, Judy Garland reportedly whispered a single name, a name her family refuses to repeat, and one that still fuels conspiracy theories among diehard fans. Was it a lover, a betrayer, a lost friend, or someone who never let her be free? The last secret was so closely guarded that even her children can't agree on what she said. When the infamous letter surfaced, it only deepened the mystery. Her daughter called it the final ghost. Some say it was the name of the one person she wished would come back and save her. Others believe it was a coded goodbye. The truth remains locked away, and the family has no plans to reveal it. Hollywood loves a good secret, but this one, they've kept buried deeper than Oz. Critics still call it the most haunting curtain call of all time. So, which secret shook you the hardest? Or do you believe Judy's family did the right thing by hiding the truth? Drop your wildest theory or hottest take in the comments. Was Judy Garland the ultimate victim of Hollywood's cruelty, or did her own choices play just as big a role in her downfall? And here's a real debate for you. If Judy lived today, would she be celebrated as a survivor or destroyed all over again by fame and family? Prove me wrong in the comments, because the truth is, every rainbow has a storm behind it. And in Judy Garland's story, the lightning never stopped.